Hi, we're going to go over a annotated bibliography PowerPoint real quick. Rather than just have you read it on your own, I'll deliver it like I would if we were in an in-person class. So I'm going to go ahead and share that. Okay, so remember the annotated bibliography is the first half of your project 2, which is ultimately going to be a literature review. This is what you're going to be working on for the next 2 weeks. And this will feed into the actual literature review. So what is an annotated bibliography? You may have done one before. You may have done something similar to one before, but it is different than what is called a bibliography. So a bibliography itself is just a list of the sources you're using for some project. Usually this is like your works cited page or your references page that you might see at the end of a paper you've written, or maybe your teacher has just asked you for a list of sources, but it's just giving the information that we did for our citations for project 1. So it's like the author, the publisher, where you find the information, what pages you're using, etc. It's just the information from the source you're using. We're going to take it a step further with the annotated bibliography, which includes that citation at the top of, in whatever style, MLA, APA, Chicago, but it goes further. The annotated bibliography also summarizes that source, and we'll talk about what that means, and evaluates or analyzes the source. So that's, you're giving a little bit of your own kind of opinion there as well. So those are the 3 parts that every source that you're using for your annotated bibliography is going to have. So you have 6 sources you need to use. So there'll be 6 citations, 6 summaries, and 6 evaluation or analysis kind of pieces attached. So why do we even want to use an annotated bibliography? Well, for one, especially at maybe the sophomore level that you might be at. I know some of you are at different levels, but you might not have that much familiarity with reading academic kind of scholarly papers yet. You might not have gotten into like the crux of your academic careers yet, where you have seen a lot of these. And so it can be like daunting to open up one of these scholarly texts. So by doing an annotated bibliography, you're giving yourself a tool to kind of read that text with a very specific goal in mind and create a shortened version of that text that you can then use when you're writing your actual paper. At the professional level, so it's creating like an idea of the work that has happened in the field. It's allowing you to condense your argument or your topic of research into smaller chunks rather than like thinking about this gigantic thing. And it also allows you to kind of explore the field. So again, because we're doing a controversial issue, you're kind of seeing different sides of a topic in your academic kind of career that you might not have seen on your own. If you have a strong opinion about one topic and you already think this is the right opinion, then you might not ever explore that other side. And by doing this annotated bibliography, you're kind of being forced to explore the different sides and see what other viewpoints are. So this is an example of like, if you type annotated bibliography into Google, this would come up, and this is half of it. We're adding one extra piece to this. So you can see you've got your citation here, and I'm not sure what format this is. Looks like maybe Chicago. And then you've got, this would be the summary. So like a 1-paragraph chunk summarizing the main information. Things you can see here is there are no direct quotes in the summary. There's no in-text citation, so the parentheses, with the page number and stuff that you would do for a different one. You don't need that because you've got the citation right here. You know where this information is coming from. And if you were to read this, you would see there's no personal opinion here. It is all about the article. It is straight summary of what is the article saying, what are the main points, but it's in the author's own words. So because we don't have any quotation marks, we know there's no direct quotes coming straight from the article. You're to do the same. I don't want any direct quotes in your summary. I want your words summarizing what the authors are saying. So like if this was to go through a plagiarism checker, it would not show any plagiarism because you're writing everything in your own words. For yours, you're adding one more piece, which is the evaluation kind of analysis piece, and we'll talk about that in a second. So you'll actually have three chunks here: a citation, an annotation, a citation, a summary, and an evaluation. So in the summary, what I want is the heart of the article. These are the main ideas that the author is bringing up. There might only be one. There might be more than one. It's all going to depend on what article you choose, what topic you choose, what your academic field is, but you're only picking up those main ideas. If there are topics or subtopics kind of under those main idea headings, then you would want those in there too. But we don't want minute details here. We want big ideas, over the top kind of level thinking, none of the little tiny things like methodology or results really, unless there's like some overarching result. We don't need that. We want the big ideas and what is the main kind of thing that the article is discussing. So it does say that the level of detail is going to be influenced by the length of your source. So if you're using a 4-page paper, you might only have one main idea, and maybe you have like 3 sentences that kind of go along with that main idea to support it, and that's it. If you read a 20-page paper, you might have multiple paragraphs. Maybe now you've got 2 different paragraphs for your summary because there's 2 main ideas that you need to cover or something like that. So think about that as you pick your sources, kind of what level of detail your summary might need. So this is not like exactly how I want you to do it, but ways to think about writing a summary would be like, if you're stuck, kind of these are the 4 things to think about: describing the key claims or main idea of the text, selecting specific examples to back up those claims, and how is the author using those examples to back up that main claim. So you would have like a main claim and then maybe 2 or 3 or 4 sentences backing that up. The main idea, that might be different than the claim. They might have a claim and then 2 or 3 main ideas backing up that claim, and then 2 or 3 examples in each main idea. It's all going to depend on the structure of the paper that you read. So read it with purpose and think about how your author is organizing their information. And then contextualization is really what's going to happen in the next step, but it's something to think about as you're summarizing. So as you're summarizing, think about like, why is this important? Why does this matter? Why does your audience care? You're not going to necessarily put that in your summary. That's more for your evaluation step, but it'll be important when you're considering what you're actually writing for your summary, because what you write in your summary should align with what you evaluate for the next step. So let's look at the evaluation. So after summarizing, then you're going to put your own kind of ideas in here. Again, you're not saying, I love this source or I agree with what this author is saying, but you are going to comment on the source itself. So questions you might ask yourself is it reliable? Is there a bias? Is it fully objective, or do I see some kind of like subjectivity happening in what they're discussing? What's the goal? Why did this author write this? What are they trying to do with it? Are they trying to prove a point? Are they trying to get funding? Are they trying to eliminate a program? Depending on the goal, there's going to be a different reason why they wrote it. How might some of this information compare to other articles? So you could do a little bit of like, some author said this, but now this author is saying this, and kind of do a comparison in your evaluation section. Is there anything new or novel? So if you've read 3 papers that kind of say the same thing, and all of a sudden your 4th paper is saying something totally wackadoo or, out there, talk about that in your evaluation. How is that different than the other stuff you've just read? So when you're writing an evaluation, again, this is not like a how-to guide, but these are ideas to consider as you're writing. So identifying audiences. So who is this paper being written to? That might matter. Is this a paper that was written to one source, like the president of a company? Is this a paper that was written to a much broader audience, like in a mainstream kind of magazine like Nature? Is this a paper that was written to specifically specialized people, like some, engineering journal that only mechanical engineers read? So think about who the audience is. That could play into possible biases that might come up. This is a little bit a weird wording, but think about how the article is marketing itself. So not marketing a product necessarily, but marketing itself. So what rhetorical strategies are they using to sell kind of the idea of the article? That's what this one means. The connection, what's the connection to the values of either society as a whole, like maybe this is an article about windmills, or the academic field, you know, what's the connection there? What's the trends that you're seeing? Again, like if you've got multiple kind of articles that say the same thing and then something says something different, there's like a little bit of a trend happening. And I should have taken this part out. It's not about a brand or a product, it's about the academic field. This is from a different presentation, so ignore the brand or product part. Evaluation of the source's credibility and bias. Again, look at kind of the information you can gather about who wrote the article, where it's being published, why it's being published, see if you can see if there's a bias or not. And then what's the proposed use of the article or the argument they're giving? Well, what are they saying needs to be done next? Just some other ideas about evaluating. You know, I'll put this slideshow up. You can read this on your own. It's kind of the same kind of ideas, but just evaluating the credibility of the source, which is also what the reading you did was about from your textbook. And again, you can read this one on your own. It's just about evaluating the credibility and any possible bias that might exist, some different ways you can look at that. So some differences between the summary piece and the evaluation analysis piece would be your summary is describing key claims. It's giving examples. And again, I should have taken out quote. I don't want you to quote. I want you to paraphrase. So in your own words, but examples of those key claims. And it's communicating the central idea in your own words. So this is very much an objective review of an article. You're not inserting any of your own ideas. The evaluation, again, you might be discussing how the product fits larger into the, I'm going to say, conversation here. How is the text talking to the conversation that's happening in the field? Is there credibility in the source? There should be, because it's in a peer-reviewed journal. So there's some credibility, but what is it and how does it apply? And is it appropriate for the discussion that's happening? So the format of this, you're going to write it in the annotated bibliography form of whatever your citation format is, APA, MLA, or Chicago. You're going to use the same citation format that you use for Project One throughout this whole course. So if in Project One you did Chicago, that's what you're doing every single time we do a paper. You need, again, 6 scholarly sources from academic or peer-reviewed articles or books. So if you're in Hunter Library searching, you might not be able to search peer-reviewed books, but if it's a scholarly book, meaning it was published by a university, it's textbook kind of format, there's multiple authors who might be professors in it, that's okay. You probably want to stick with articles. They're shorter, they're easier to read, they're more to the point. But if there's some book that appeals to you or some chunk of a book that appeals to you, you can use that too. Your annotations, all of them, your summary and your evaluation is going to be in paragraph form, full sentences, you know, like that example. And there's another example for this module as well. The length might be different. I want at least 1 paragraph, but maybe you need to make 2 or 3, and that's okay. Everything you're writing for the annotated bibliography feeds straight into your literature review. So if you go a little above and beyond for this, you just have more information to use when you write your literature review. So it's not a bad thing if you need to include more than 1 paragraph for your summary or something like that. As always, if you have questions about this PowerPoint or annotated bibliographies, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help you get through whatever you need to get through to help you figure out how to do this assignment.